Okay, guys, we're going to go ahead and get rolling and get started for today. Recording has started, and let's go ahead and get this party started, guys. Thanks so much for joining me. We had quite a few people sign up, so I'm excited to see several of your names pop in. Today, what we are going to talk about are the top, in my opinion, the top 10 new features of version 10 and version 11. We've got a lot of you that are starting to upgrade to version 11. We didn't really put anybody on version 10 because the version 10 and 11 releases, they came out really close together. So we just kind of skipped straight to version 11. But there was still some cool stuff that came out of the version 10 release. And so I didn't really specify which versions which as far as the top 10 features we're going to talk about today. But you'll have them if you just go straight to version 11, which is what we would do for you at that point. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Taylor Craig. I am the Senior Platforms Consultant here at Keneo. So I work with all of our current clients and train on any of their solutions that they may have, any custom development that we've done for them, as well as core implementation. And then I also work with our sales team to work with setting up demonstrations and things like that. So if you're interested in seeing more of what Keneo has to offer, I'm your girl. You'll probably end up talking to myself or Alex Carrick. So let's talk about the first top, number 10. So we're going to kind of do this like David Letterman. Number 10 is persistent login. So the main difference between this one is you'll see over here, remember my username? This is the one that we've always known and had the ability to do on the login box. Now you can just say, remember my login. So basically it's just going to log them in every time. If they're using the same browser and things like that and the same computer, it's not necessarily a bad thing to do. To get to that one, it's Site Administration, Security, and Security Settings, and then you will scroll down to where it says Persistent Login, and then just check the box and you should see that change take place. Number 9 is the Featured Links block. This is a pretty cool block. It did come out in version 10, so you may not see this one, but it is a core block, kind of similar to a custom block I know some of you have implemented called the Isotope block. Not near as versatile as the Isotope block. Isotope block lets you do a lot more, but this one does still allow you to kind of have that tiled look and that tiled feel. Has a couple of different ways that you can manipulate that. So you have like a static one, so that would be like this one over here, this guy with an image that's just a static image on the background. And then you can link to various places. So you can link inside your site, you can link outside of your site, you can link wherever you want to link to. And then you have the other two. You've got one for programs and one for certifications now. Basically, it's a direct link to programs and certifications, or a specific program and certification. I personally am not seeing a huge use for those two pieces of the puzzle without like program self-enrollment. But maybe there's potential use cases. Like say you have everyone enrolled in a program from the time they log into your site, they're just dumped into a program. Hey, that may be great for you. It just gives them a quick jump straight into that program screen. Then they have one that just, it will rotate between images. So you can put in multiple images. It will rotate between those images. But the main changes with version 11 were that they added 2 new tile types, which is the programs and certification. And then they also gave you the ability to shape those tiles in different ways. What we're seeing here is the use of small square, and it's actually in a course. So you can put this block wherever you want to. It doesn't have to be on a front page or dashboard. I have this in a course, and it's over to the left side of the screen, and it's got all 4 of them little bundled up there. You can do them portrait, which it makes them tall and skinny. You can do them landscape, it makes them short and wide, and then full width, it will just take up the full width of the area where the block is placed. So you've got a couple of options there. So kind of a neat, nice new little block there. Number 8, this one's kind of a big deal. From version 10 or version 9 even to version 11, lots more conditional access settings. So the main ones that are going to be new are going to be member of an audience. So you may not be able to see an activity unless you are a member of a particular audience. So that's a possibility there. Date and grade. So those were there. So let's keep looking. Assigned to an organization or assigned to a position. So that's one that's going to be useful. User language, that one's interesting to me. User profile, and then also a restriction set, which is one that's always been there, but it's a combo of any of the ones that you see here. The reason I said that user language is kind of interesting to me is we have a lot of clients who want to do multilingual courses. So they a lot of times use the multilingual filter, which is core and been core for a long time, that allows you to have 2 different languages essentially displayed, and depending on the language that you choose in your profile, that's the one you see. So I see how this could be useful. I do still want to give the disclaimer that as far as completions, that has not changed. So if you're wanting things to count towards completion, just be aware that if you say activity 1 in English and activity 1 in Spanish both count towards completion, make sure everybody can get to it. So you may prevent your people who are English speaking from completing the course because they can't actually access the Spanish stuff. So just be aware of that. Completion settings have not changed. Kenio does have a customization that's kind of an answer to that type of situation, basically where it will ignore things that I can't see and still allow me to complete. So if that's absolutely something you need, part of your puzzle may be there, but we may need to help you out on the other side, making sure that users still can complete. But if you just have a quiz at the end, then you're probably good to go. And you could do either or. So you do have that option as well. Here's a nice one. You now have the ability to pin discussions. So you'll notice here, if you look at my discussions, I threw these in yesterday. I've got one that was at 4:07 p.m. and one that was at 4:09. And so this one happened first, right? But I went in as the administrator and I pinned this one, and so it pinned it to the top. So it's always going to be at the top, even if it's like December. That one that happened in August is always going to sit at the top. So basically you can pin things that you think are valuable, that you want people to see first. You do have the ability to do that. By default, admins and editing trainers can do this. There is a permission that goes along with pinning. So if you need to give that to someone else, we can do that with a role permission. Number 6, there are new ways to award badges. So used to, you could not award badges based on audience membership or program completion. You may be saying, well, whoop-de-doo, I could always do it on course completion. I just had to put in multiple courses. And you're right. But now you can just select the entire program. You don't have to know, okay, what are all the courses that are in that program? Go look, figure it out, and then put them in there. So it saves you some time. And then also audience membership. So you may be thinking, well, what purpose does that serve? People don't even know they're in an audience half the time. And you're right, they don't. But a lot of times you're putting people into a new audience because you're allowing them to, quote, level up, or you're putting them into new, more exciting training, right? So do it in that sense. Do it kind of like a leaderboard or a level up type of thing. Gamify it. They never know they're in that new audience, but it's a way for you to trigger awarding badges. Number 5, course completion editor and checker. This one's pretty cool. So it is based on a permission. By default, it is only turned on for administrators. So if you need somebody who has access to this, you just give them this permission right here. Totara completion editor, edit course completion. You can just search for edit course completion and it should come up. But essentially what this does, you can access it in 2 places. You can access it by going through site administration, manage courses and categories, check course completions. So that's your checker. It's going to let you know if you have any conflicts. So if there's anything that doesn't make sense as far as completion, so it's just going to go through and make sure that everything's hunky-dory as far as completions are concerned and users that are in there. But your completion editor, that particular one is kind of cool. So gives you a nice, neat little screen where you can go through, you can see every single activity and resource on a per person basis inside their course. So it's per course, per person. You can go in there and you can manually manipulate completion. So you can say that they've viewed it, that they have, you can manually manipulate every aspect of it. So it's kind of like they took RPL, which is record of prior learning, and that's a core feature that's been there for a while. They took that and then they added some really cool stuff to it. So you can do a whole lot more there. So that's an option there. Number 4, this one's really nice. I like this one a lot. This one is force profile update on login. We have done this customization a gazillion times, and we have several different varieties of this. This is now core. So if you add in a new profile field, a new user profile field, if you go in and add in another one and make it required and put it on that sign up page, the next sign in, they're going to be prompted to update their profile. So, and it's going to be required, so they can't go anywhere until they do something about it. So you'll see down here on my other field, I have years with the company, and I have made it required. So this person had logged in multiple times before, but she logged in for a second time, and it made her answer this question. So this is nice. Again, we do have several different flavors of this as far as customization. So if this doesn't fit exactly what you're looking for, we do have other varieties of this exact same thing. But it's core now, so that's cool. Number 3, user data privacy and protection. So we've already talked about this one. This is one of the major big deals to upgrading for those of you who have members who are in the EU. So all over Europe, the GDPR, which is the General Data Protection Regulation, is going to impact you. So if you are international, if you have people who are in Europe, you need to be very aware of this. As of May 25th, if you're not using GDPR, technically not compliant. So just keep that in mind. But basically what it gives users the ability to do is it gives them the right to protect their own privacy on your site. They can export their own data, so they can export everything that you have on them in your site. They can export that. You can also quickly and easily delete everything about that user. You can delete their completions, any information that you had on them. So basically you can get rid of them completely. Also, you can create multiple different policies. So used to, we just had the one site policy where you like embedded the, it was kind of old school and kind of a pain to do, but you had to embed a PDF somewhere and then show that through, and then they just had to say yes. Now you can make a little bit more complex site policies. You can have more than one. So if you want to say, hey, just so you know, we're going to take your email, we won't share it. Are you okay with this? They say yes. And then you prompt them with another policy potentially about other profile information that you may keep on them. So that's something to be aware of and something that's available. Number 2, self-registration with approval. I saw this one and I thought, well, that really would have come in handy about 2 years ago with a client that I was working with. Basically, what this allows you to do allows learners to come to your site. They can create their own account. They can do quite a few things. So the ability, some of this stuff is there in email-based self-registration where they can pick their own manager, pick their position, and pick their organization. Problem is they could come in all willy-nilly and choose that information, and then you didn't know when they came in, and you didn't know if they picked the right thing. So you ended up kind of with that situation. Now there's a stop screen. So basically when the learner's going through and they sign up and they choose all the information about themselves, then they say, I believe it says process your account or something like that. They click it and then it sends a notification to the site administrator or whomever is managing this. Sends a notification, hey, you got a new person. Then there's a pending request screen where you go and you take a look, and then you can edit their profile. So if they pick the wrong manager, if they pick the wrong position or whatever, you can edit that, you can fix it, and then you can approve them, or you can just flat out decline them and not allow them access, or you can message them and ask more questions. So it just basically gives you a really nice interface there. Number 1, this one was my personal favorite out of all the ones that were listed, and that is that there was 2 new permissions for scheduled reports. So if you are familiar with the My Reports tab, and sometimes you let your students see that My Reports tab because sometimes you're going to let them see reports about themselves. I can't tell you how many clients I've had to ask me, can I make that scheduled reports thing go away for my learners? And you absolutely can now. So that's what the create scheduled reports permission does. Basically, it takes away that little section down there at the bottom. So if you don't have a need to see it, you don't have to see it, which is really nice there. And then also, there's a new feature called Manage Scheduled Reports. It is at the system level. You can see every single person who has set up a scheduled report for themselves. You can see that at the system level, and then you can manage them. So if you have somebody that is pulling a ginormous report daily, and maybe it's a kind of a time suck on your server, I just got a hallelujah. That's even cooler. So you can now, so if you have somebody who's pulling that giant report, and it's slowing your server down or whatever it's doing for you, you can now go in, you can manage it, you can see it, then you can contact that person and say, is there a reason you're pulling this enormous report daily? And is there something better that we can do? Or you can just simply reschedule it for them. I got a question. Will it tell you how big the reports are, the resources that they're using? So I don't think it necessarily tells you how big they are specifically, but they're all reports that you as an administrator would have created, right? So you're probably aware of how large some of them are, and you can go in and take a look. We'll go look at that and just double check and see, because I think I set up a scheduled report just so we could look at it. So we'll look at that. And then also, you can now set scheduled reports to just be sent to yourself. It's a checkbox. You don't have to type in your email now, which is nice. So you have the ability to do that. So those are kind of the top 10 things that I thought were the coolest. If you want to see where I got this list, so I didn't just dream this up. Totara actually has a list. Let me grab my keyboard here. If you go to help.totaralearning.com, and it used to be help.totaralms.com, you can click that, put that in, and it'll bring you here. Click on Totara Learn, and then look at version 11. I also was looking at 10 and 11 when I was coming up with this list, just because, you know, I knew we skipped 10. And then at the very top, there is a link, kind of hard to see, that says what's new. And it is literally just kind of a list of, hey, these are all the big features. So there's actually several other ones that I didn't talk about today. Those were just kind of the 10 that I liked the best personally, that I was thinking, oh, I got to use that with this client, or I could use that with this person. So those were the ones that I picked out, but there are for each version. So then if you go to 10, it's worth looking at 10 as well, because you're going to get these features when you upgrade to 11. And then it's the same thing. Click that what's new link, and then it'll show you all of these as well. Okay. Another nice feature that I forgot to talk about is the browse list of users screen has been updated finally, and we've talked about that before, but it is now just a report. So you can put the data you need on that screen, and the filters you need on that screen, versus being locked into what we used to be locked into.